Welcome to the Eddie Show, bitch. How is everyone today? Today I'd like to do a special show. I'm going to be interrupting my trip to Australia and to just let everybody know, first of all, how much I appreciate everyone that watches the show. And I wanted to get a little bit more intimate on a different note today. My mother, who I love very much, she passed away a couple weeks ago. And I am here today in my sister's front yard in her travel trailer, which is my room because the house is full. And I'm getting ready to go to celebrate my mother's life, who I loved very much, and I'd like to celebrate some of it with you. You know, she was a kind, gentle, loving woman that had her share of ups and downs, but I loved her very much. And you know, I will never forget her, and I just wanted to basically share a few things with you today. You know, she, when I started going to college, she sent me this card, and look at this. Isn't this just the cutest picture ever? And that's what college felt like, too. Felt like I was lifting a weight that I didn't think I was ever going to get lifted after a while. It's very sweet. And all it says is amazing things can happen. And amazing things do. Anyway, she gave me this other card a while ago, and it says, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years. So that's like my favorite saying ever, because I think that's true. And anyway, so I'm going to read you something I'm going to be reading today at her celebration of life, and I wanted to share it with everyone. It says, good afternoon. I want to extend my thanks to all that could make it here today to honor Claire. I'm sure she's happy to see all of you here today. Other than working hard for her independence and helping her adult children, Claire was my mother. Mom and I shared a lot of wonderful and challenging moments together. I had the pleasure of attending my mother's high school graduation while I was in her belly. I was also able to attend her wedding to my dad, also in her belly. She became my first best friend. She loved being a stay-at-home mom and took a lot of pride in doing so. Staying home from school to hang out with my mom was something I loved. I always used to think, cool, I get to stay home from school today. With her permission, of course. There were those days where she was like, do you want to stay home from school today? I'll take you to breakfast. And I always loved that. One day when I stayed home from school, Mom planted a vegetable garden in our backyard. To keep me interested in growing vegetables, my mom also planted marigolds. She had me help her. She let me know that those were mine and Denise's. I have a little sister, her name is Denise. When I would attend to the marigolds, I would also help with the vegetables. She was really teaching me to like vegetables, actually. Mom also had a great love of music. I remember when she brought home Chuck Mangione's Feel So Good album. This was in the 70s. She was so proud to have bought the last copy at the record store. That album must have been played 1,000 times in our home. Every time I hear it, I think of her and my dad and how free and easy life was for the four of us, Mom, Dad, Denise, and I. When Chuck came on, it was relaxation time in our household. I also recall the time she came home from a 3-month trip to Sweden. She was so excited to have brought home new music that had not yet hit the airwaves in the United States. I love the melody of this new music sensation. When ABBA took America by storm 3 months later, I thought, wow, my mom is so hip. Of course, Dancing Queen is still one of my favorite songs. When we moved to the mountain community of Twinehart, California, my mother used to play Donna Summer's Live and More album so loud, I thought the doors and windows were going to blow off the house. One night after being sent to bed for the evening, I got up and pretended to go to the bathroom. I was real sneaky that way, so I could see what she was doing. I watched as she danced and sang out loud to the music. It was so much fun to watch my young mother rejoice this way. I used to hope that someday I could rejoice and celebrate life just like her. The only time I remember my mom enjoying working outside our home while we were young was when we lived in a KOA campground, which was a protected community in Santa Cruz, California. Although she knew we were playing out with the other children in the community, she always made it home to make us dinner. If Sister and I needed anything, we could just walk to where she worked without leaving the community. As a socially awkward fourth grader, she always seemed to be in sync with my needs. One day I was having a challenging time at school. 3/4 of the way through the day, during what would be fifth period or around 2 p.m., there was a knock at the door of my classroom. The teacher opened the door, and there was my mother, hair coiffed, high heels, pantyhose, makeup, and a beautiful sundress on, with sunlight behind her. Every student looked up to view my mom presenting her best. I turned to one of my classmates that had been a source of difficulty for me and said, "That's my mother." I was always proud of how my mom was so good at taking care of Sister and me, but that day I sparkled as I pranced out of that classroom with my mom. From that day forward, I had the prettiest mom in the fourth grade. As I became an older adult and wanted to move to Southern California, I knew my mother was worried. But she bought me that one-way plane ticket anyway. I told her I would be in touch, and I stayed in touch with her like I said I would. Becoming a SoCal boy was not something she wanted for me, but she knew that's what I wanted. My career choices were provocative and without any safety net, but she supported me completely. Later on, I decided to change careers and become a professional driver, which elated my mother. Helping me study for that test was one of my mom's proudest moments, I could tell, because she was a driver also for about 20 years. As a driver, when I came home to visit during the holidays, my mother and I had lots to talk about. She came down to Palm Springs to spend Christmas with me and even came to my driving job. I showed her the fleet of buses I drove and even introduced her to my boss and some of the other drivers. Those were really fun times because we finally shared a commonality other than genetics. When my mother became ill, she called and told me herself. I could tell she was a little nervous. Honestly, the first thing on my mind was, "Mom, you have to fight this as long as you can." She had lived through some very troubling and turbulent times in her life and survived. This was just one more battle to take on. I am a self-centered man. At the time I received the news, I had 2 trips planned. Before I went to Italy, I asked my mother, "Can you behave while I'm gone?" She did. I had asked her to hang in there until I got back from Australia, and again, she did. It was a pleasure to share the stories of my adventures and the pictures I took with her. It was more fun to present her with gifts I picked up along the way, though. Again, even as ill as she was, she gave me the gift of more time. Near the end of her life, there were times when she was too sick to take on the day. There were some days where she could. I had come down to visit her during her illness. When I got to Pleasant Hill BART, I called to ask her what bus to take to her house. She said, "I'm coming to get you." I didn't argue, but I was a little concerned with how she was going to get in her van with her oxygen tubing, purse, etc. I waited a bit, and sure enough, she called me and told me to walk to the other side of the BART station where the buses park. As I walked closer to her van, I had started to notice her in more detail. Her coiffed, fresh lipstick, makeup, no oxygen tubing, fresh and brightly colored clothes, parked in her van under a sign that said, "Buses Only." She didn't care that a security guard was telling her to move her van. She ignored him in the way women so eloquently ignore people when they want to give of themselves to others. She arrived with a smile for me as bright as the sun, just like she had when I was in the 4th grade. Proud, strong, and beautiful. Taking care of my mother was an honor. Our conversations were short and brief, but effective. This time she needed me. It was a bittersweet pleasure to help her put on a fresh dress, undergarments, and shoes. She asked to eat in the living room. We did so. She wanted to get outside for some fresh air. We went on a wheelchair walk of about 2 good-sized blocks. In as much pain as my mother was in, she did it like a trooper. We were having our last moments together. She knew this. I didn't. Staying up to take care of her needs that evening didn't seem as tough physically as it was emotionally. We spent as much conscious time as the morphine in her system would allow. We let each other know how much we loved one another. Her suffering was beyond comprehension for me at times. 3 days after I returned home, she passed on her wedding anniversary to my dad. I've never known anyone to do that, but my dad was the love of her life. Knowing that makes me all the more proud of her, even in death. I mean, who does that? I mean, who knows when it's time to go like that? I have never known anyone to leave this earth so romantically. I am sad that I do not get to spend any more time with my mother in this life. However, I am relieved and grateful that she has found peace, and she's not suffering anymore. I am looking forward to better times with her in the afterlife. Rest in peace, Mama. Rest in peace. Thank you for watching The Eddie Show today, and I'll see you next time. Love you. Bye.